Brought to you by Penguin.
The Autumn of the Ace by Louis de Bernières, read by David Sibley. Since this unity means happiness, the individual is thus sent forth into the world by his own spirit to seek his happiness. Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Chapter 1. Empty Holster. He paused in the middle of the airfield and thought about his lover. She came to his mind unprompted, a warm, golden image, and almost immediately he heard her voice repeating what she'd said to him on the telephone just the evening before. "Well, darling, we can't keep having wars just to keep you interested, can we? When are you coming up to see us? I'm going to spoil you rotten." The war was over, and in its own way it had been as exciting and interesting as the one before, but considerably stranger. This war had taken place by moonlight. The weeks of the dark of the moon had always been time off, as were the nights when there was a moon, but it was too cloudy or tempestuous, or there was no mission. In the last war he'd never had the opportunity to become bored. The stress and excitement had been continuous, but in this one he had filled the empty hours with range practice, long walks on the South Downs with borrowed dogs, tinkering with his motorcycle, books, and music. He had fulfilled a lifelong ambition by reading all of Balzac's Comédie Humaine. He had read all of Thomas Hardy twice, most of Ian Hay's very silly novels, the Essay of Montaigne, Sapper's Bulldog Drummond novels, in which our patriotic and intrepid hero usually shook off his chains and in one bound he was free. Hundreds of back issues of Punch, or the London Charivari, all of Flaubert, and most of P.G. Wodehouse. During his escapades in France, he had even borrowed books from farmers and partisans. He had read a great deal of Mauriac and Duhamel, and even tried Das Kapital in French on the insistence of a communist colleague, but it was appallingly dry. He had read the words whilst thinking of something else. Ever since seeing the enchanting and exquisite Lily Pons performing in Paris a few years before, he had been in love with her, and in his tiny room on the perimeter of the airfield, in what was not much more than a wooden shed, he listened to her records on his wind-up gramophone until they were completely worn out, and he had to buy them again. Apart from that, he had taught French lessons twice a week to whomever on the airfield either wanted or needed to attend. It had occurred to most aircrew that if they were shot down over France, it might indeed be useful to know the language. Daniel's lessons were popular because they included contemporary slang and comic renditions of regional accents. It was true that there couldn't be wars just to keep him interested, but nonetheless, up to that moment when Christabel had popped into his mind, Daniel Pitt had been angry and resentful, limping away from the armory with an empty leather holster at his left hip. He had tried every rhetorical trick he knew to avoid handing in his revolver, but in the end had been defeated by the victory. The moment the war had ended, the forces had reverted to their standard peacetime procedures. Everything was bogged down once more in the old wearisome, stifling clag of regulation and doing things by numbers. Every airman knows it. The moment a war ends, the desk pilots are back in the cockpit. Daniel had argued and prevaricated. He had said that although he was technically in the RAF, he was actually working for SOE, and he might well be a flight commander shortly to be promoted to squadron leader, but he was really a soldier, and he was waiting for orders from elsewhere. And in the meantime, why couldn't he keep the revolver and ammunition in the locked chest under his bed, just as he always had? He loved his revolver. It was a Webley Mark VI, and the heft of it in his hand was like that of an instrument in the hands of a musician. It had seen him through his 4 years of adventures in occupied France, as he flew his Lysander in and out by moonlight, dropping off and picking up spies and partisans. It must have saved his life 6 times.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?